They killed weak babies, starved their own children, turned 7-year-olds into killers. The Spartans, 300 warriors, held off 1 million enemies. Not with swords, with brutal discipline, perfect formations, and zero fear of death. Their training? Murder practice. Their motto? Return with your shield or on it. The most feared warriors in history. The truth is more brutal than the movie. Let's go. I'm talking about the Spartans. So, first things first, where did the Spartans even come from? Sparta was a city-state in ancient Greece, located in the region of Laconia. But unlike Athens with its philosophers and artists, Sparta had one obsession: war. Everything in Spartan society revolved around creating the perfect warrior. And I mean everything. From the moment a Spartan boy was born, his entire life was designed for one purpose: to fight and die for Sparta. Sound intense? We're just getting started. Here's something most people don't know. Sparta wasn't just militaristic by choice. They were outnumbered. Spartans ruled over a massive population of enslaved people called helots. For every one Spartan citizen, there were about 7 helots. Think about that. They were constantly surrounded by people who hated them. So, Spartans had to be so terrifying, so dominant, that rebellion was unthinkable. And they succeeded for centuries. Now let's talk about the Agoge, the Spartan training system. This is where it gets dark. When a Spartan boy was born, elders would inspect him. If he looked weak or deformed, left on a mountainside to die. No exceptions. Sparta had zero tolerance for weakness. If the baby passed inspection, he stayed with his mother until age 7. Then his childhood ended. At 7 years old, boys were taken from their families and entered the Agoge. For the next 13 years, their lives were hell. They were beaten regularly to build pain tolerance, starved intentionally so they'd learn to steal food without getting caught, forced to fight each other, sometimes to the death. Sleep-deprived, humiliated, broken down and rebuilt as weapons. One famous test, boys were sent into the wilderness with nothing. They had to survive by killing helots without getting caught. That's right, murder as a training exercise. If they got caught, severe punishment, not for killing, but for being sloppy. This wasn't education, this was systematic brutalization. And it worked. By age 20, Spartan men were the most feared warriors on Earth. Let's talk about Spartan combat effectiveness. What made them so dominant? First, the Phalanx formation. Spartans fought in a tight formation with overlapping shields and long spears called dories. Each warrior's shield protected the man to his left. This meant your survival depended on your brother beside you. Breaking formation meant death for everyone. So, Spartans never broke formation. Other Greek armies would panic and scatter. Spartans stood firm. Second, their equipment. The iconic Spartan shield, the aspis, weighed about 30 pounds. Made of wood and bronze, it could stop almost any weapon. Their primary weapon was the dory, an 8-foot spear, perfect for the phalanx, allowing them to stab enemies while staying protected. And the famous Spartan sword, the chiphos, actually a backup weapon, only used when spears broke. Short, brutal, designed for close quarters killing. Third, psychological warfare. Spartans wore crimson-red cloaks. Why? So blood wouldn't show. Enemies couldn't tell if they were wounded. They marched into battle singing hymns, perfectly synchronized. While other armies screamed and charged chaotically, Spartans advanced like a machine. Imagine facing that, a wall of bronze shields, blood-red cloaks, moving with mechanical precision. Terrifying. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the Battle of Thermopylae. The 300 Spartans holding off the Persian Empire. Hollywood got some things right, but missed a lot. Yes, King Leonidas led 300 Spartan warriors to the narrow pass at Thermopylae. Yes, they faced the massive Persian army of King Xerxes. But here's what the movie didn't tell you. First, they weren't alone. Leonidas brought about 7,000 Greek allies with him. The 300 Spartans were just the core, the elite guard. Other Greek city-states contributed troops. Second, the strategy was brilliant. Thermopylae was a narrow coastal pass, only wide enough for a few dozen men at a time. This neutralized Persia's numerical advantage. No matter how many soldiers Xerxes had, only a handful could fight at once. And in that narrow space, Spartans were unbeatable. For 3 days, they slaughtered thousands of Persians. The elite Persian immortals, supposedly the best warriors in the world, massacred. Xerxes watched in horror as wave after wave of his troops died. Third, the betrayal. A Greek traitor named Ephialtes showed the Persians a hidden mountain path. This allowed them to surround the Greeks. Leonidas realized they were doomed. He sent most of the allies home to fight another day. But the 300 Spartans, they stayed. Not because they were stupid, because it was their duty. Spartan law forbade retreat. They would hold the line or die trying. And they did, every single one. But their sacrifice bought time for Greece to prepare. Months later, the Greeks defeated Persia at the Battle of Salamis. Spartans' stand at Thermopylae wasn't just brave, it saved Western civilization. Let's talk about Spartan women, because they were unique in the ancient world. Unlike other Greek city-states where women had zero rights, Spartan women had significant freedom. Why? Because men were always at war. Women ran the economy, owned property, and made decisions. Spartan women also trained physically. They competed in athletics, learned to fight, and were expected to be strong. Why? So they could produce strong children. Everything circled back to creating better warriors. There's a famous story about Spartan mothers. When sending sons to war, they'd hand them their shield and say, "Come back with it or on it," meaning return victorious or return dead, never retreat. That was the Spartan mindset, victory or death, no third option. Now here's something dark that history often glosses over, the Helots. These enslaved people lived in constant terror. Every year, Sparta would declare war on the Helots. Not a real war, just a legal fiction. This allowed young Spartans to murder Helots without consequence. It was called the Cryptia, a secret police force of young warriors. They'd hunt Helots at night, killing anyone who seemed strong or rebellious. This kept the Helot population terrified and submissive. Brutal? Absolutely. Effective? Unfortunately, yes. Sparta maintained control through sheer terror for centuries. Let's address Spartan decline, because even they eventually fell. After dominating Greece for generations, Sparta made a critical mistake. Their warrior culture was so extreme it became unsustainable. Spartan citizens had to dedicate their entire lives to war. This meant they couldn't work regular jobs. Helots did all the labor, but Spartans needed wealth to maintain their status. Over time, wealth concentrated in fewer hands. The number of full Spartan citizens dropped drastically, from about 8,000 warriors at their peak to barely 1,000. Meanwhile, other Greek city-states evolved. Thebes developed new tactics that countered the Phalanx. At the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BCE, Thebes crushed Sparta. For the first time in memory, Spartans were defeated on land. Their myth of invincibility shattered. Then came Rome, and Sparta became just another conquered territory. But their legacy? That never died. So what's the real takeaway about Spartans? They weren't superheroes. They were products of an extremely brutal system, a system that sacrificed humanity for military effectiveness. Yes, they were incredible warriors, the most disciplined, fearless soldiers in ancient history. But at what cost? Dead babies, enslaved populations, childhood trauma, no art, no philosophy, no progress, just war forever. Modern military training borrows from Spartan methods: discipline, unit cohesion, pain tolerance, but we've learned that you don't need to break people's humanity to make them effective. The Spartans were a product of their time, brutal, effective, and ultimately unsustainable. So next time you hear someone romanticize Sparta, remember the full picture. Yes, they were badass warriors, legends for a reason, but they also represented an extreme that destroyed itself from within. The true lesson of Sparta isn't be like them, it's learn from them, both their strengths and their fatal flaws. Drop a comment. Would you have survived the Agoge? What surprised you most? And if you want more deep dives into legendary warriors and the truth behind the myths, smash that subscribe button, because history is always more complex than the stories we tell. Peace out.